I have a confession. Do you remember those French bread Stouffer pizzas from the freezer section, like late 90s, early aughts/2000s? And you would like put them in the toaster oven and heat them up. And like every single time you would like burn your mouth like crazy. I sort of kind of miss them just a little bit.
Well, there's lots of things I think from the 90s that people love and that probably hurt them deeply.
Oh my God. Like seriously, I can't even believe I can taste anything anymore. I've burnt my mouth so many times.
Bagel bites, anyone?
Hot Pockets, ham and cheese. Oh, so good.
Yep. Captain Crunch cereal. Destruction of your mouth.
Razors in your mouth.
Just chunks of flesh hanging down.
Every day.
Well, speaking of things that destroy your life, hi, I'm Sybil Solon. I'm esthetician and spa owner.
And hi, I'm Alex Ellis. I'm a body nerd and wellness expert, and we are business besties.
And bosses, running your own business, it's hard.
But we're terrible employees, so we're figuring it out.
I've already figured it out, but we promise to share everything we know about what it takes to get 6 figures.
And be brutally honest about what sucks, aka a lot of it, and what works.
And I'll be honest, oh my God, guys, a bunch of it really sucks right now, but let's get started.
Dumpster fire! Welcome back to Skinfessional. In today's episode, we're talking about how everything sucks, and it's okay to not be okay right now. Also, why taking the time to reflect might be the best work that you can do right now because you can do it inside.
And why figuring out what actually makes you happy might be the best thing for you to do for kind of your next steps.
So state of California, right, said, hey, nail salons, hair salons, estheticians, we're not going to shut you down again. We're just going to shut you down indoors, but you could do it outside. It's fine. Totally fine.
Totally sanitary. Makes complete sense. You should definitely do things outside in, the outside where it's like 100 degrees, there are flies and bugs, and that will make it safe for COVID and completely sanitary.
That's all I gotta say. I mean, I can see, like, I know my husband's barber, like, as a joke the next day, he's like, I'm outside, can't tell me to stop. And he just, like, ran a super long extension cord. But like, why? None of this. It makes makes no sense. Zero sense.
We're already one of the cleanest, most regulated industries, like probably in the country. Except there's like doctors and then there's like probably us. Like we're so heavily regulated. It makes no sense. So one of my clients is a trauma surgeon. And like, so he was like trained in Iraq and stuff. And he literally called me up and was like, so I'm ready, balls out in the alley. Come on, let's do this.
I know. Well, and then there was that Instagram video you shared of a local esthetician, and it was so funny. The geotag was dumpster fire. And she was like, all right, you guys, so, the restrictions have changed. Let me give you a tour. And she's at the dumpster, and like behind the dumpster, here's where you're going to change your clothes. Like, we'll sweep the dirt out. It'll be fine. And I'm just like, this is hilarious.
Yeah, my favorite part is where she's like, I don't have any water to wash my hands, but I've got these wet wipes.
It's like funny, but also like, what?
That's so true. So, because if you look at like some of these estheticians who are talking about what they're doing, they're like, so I can make this tent outside, right? So there are estheticians who are like, I'm not going to do this. This is crazy. And then there are other ones who are like, but I need to make money. Like I need to do this. We don't have unemployment anymore. And so these are my options. And this is all I have. And so this is what I'm going to do. I mean, if I looked outside at my dumpster area, which by the way is full of people that drive by, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy talk. There are flies. There is dirt and debris. There are people that come by. It is 100 degrees outside. This is insanity. And not clean.
No, I wish too that like, I feel like we're in the stage and where it's just like blunt tools, you know, like when they used to do surgery, like in outside with like rocks and stuff,
Right.
you know, and now we can use robots to do it. And it's far more precise. I would like to skip forward to where it would be more precision and like, oh, hey, we saw an outbreak at this location. Like, let's just close the ones in the area, or like, you know, not just like this blanket statement, because as estheticians, the work that you do is not the same as like going to a barber. Also, a
Yeah.
barber who has one chair, like it's not the same. Like, it's just really frustrating.
Yeah. It is not the same as a barber or a single chair. Very much, we do things that are very medical based.
Mm-hmm.
We are doing things that you would not ask like a surgeon or a doctor to go work in an alley unless they had to. Once again, my client who is a trauma surgeon in Iraq.
Hi, could you do my LASIK surgery just here in the alley? It's totally fine. Like, no.
No, absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So
No.
I think we're just being lumped in with a bunch of people because they're just not thinking clearly.
Do you think they're actually talking to people who have any idea of the industries that they're affecting at this point?
I don't really think so. No. And I don't think that they actually care. I think that they actually, I think that the government right now just doesn't care. And they're just like, well, we have to keep stuff open because people are complaining and this is the easiest way we can do it. So poo poo. That's going to be the easiest way for us to handle the situation. And it makes me angry.
Yeah.
It's making a lot of people angry.
Yeah. No, it's so frustrating because I'm not like downplaying the severity of this virus. Like, I'm pretty sure, you know, somebody I follow on social media just got sick like today. There are people who, you know, we all follow who have lost loved ones. Like, people I know have died. And it's just like, God, it's awful, but it also across the board, it just feels like everybody is running around like a chicken with their head cut off. And I'm just like, am I just supposed to be here in this office for 30 years? Like, come on.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I think the problem is that we still don't know enough and we're just reacting and not actually like having a game plan. Yeah. And that's actually for me, I think that that's what's so hard for people when they come in is they don't know what's going to happen. There's no game plan. Nobody sat down like, this is what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. This is how long we're going to do it. We have a goal. We're going to try these things. This is what we're hoping for. We're sticking to this plan. This is our plan of action, which is if this was any business, it was what we'd be doing.
Right.
The business of COVID, right?
Can you imagine, like, let's just say a year ago, a restaurant was just like, no, we're going to be closed for like 3 months, like whatever. Okay, we're open now. Like,
right. And people are spending money and doing these things. And it's essentially like trauma and terrorism to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so that's why so many people are just, we're failing emotionally right now. We're failing emotionally as a country. We are having trauma and we're having this like horror and despair. Right. And so you and I talked about this morning when we were hanging out, and you know, we were talking about the fact that you're like, I'm spiraling, Sybil. Like, you know, I'm spiraling. Like, how are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm spiraling. I'm not doing well.
I'm not doing well. But you look so put together.
I'm not doing well at all. I cry so much, and I'm not doing well at all. And if I'm seeing clients, you know, I'd be spiraling as well. We did a whole episode about like how we're holding our shit together, right? And so one of the things that I've had trouble dealing with is, you know, my life is coming apart around me. I'm dismantling my life right now, right? For anybody who's not a regular listener, I'm shutting down my business. I've made the decision to shut down my business because it's not a good time for me to be in business, and I'm uprooting myself and moving to Las Vegas from Los Angeles. And one of the hard things is people feel that they have to be like, but it's positive, right? And I'm like, it's not fucking positive. Like, I'm not saying that it won't be, but for now, it doesn't feel positive. Like, it feels terrible. And so I feel that we live in a world right now where people feel like everything has to be okay. It's going to be okay, right? Everything's going to be great.
Yeah.
It's not okay.
I would say that's totally where I am really struggling right now too, because I am that like forever optimistic person to the chagrin of some of them people around me. Like that's me. I always am looking for like, well, here's the bright side and here's this and here's that and here's a silver lining. I'm sure I've even said that on here.
Mm-hmm.
And it just like with every day, I'm like, yeah, that silver lining is like it's not good enough anymore. Like it's not quite cutting it. And I I don't have there's not enough silver linings in the world to fill up a life raft that's going to get us through this like flood tide when you don't even know how long it's going to keep raining.
Right. And I tend to err on the side of what I call realistic. But I do see the positives in things. I'm like, hey, I work hard to see the positives. I'm also like, hey, I'm going to look at that positive and I'm going to move towards it. But at the same time, we've talked about this idea of toxic positivity, right? Where you're forcing yourself to see the good, and therefore you're not allowing yourself to like live in the fact that you are feeling this despair and this trauma and this misery. And when they're like, when I'm like, they're like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm not doing okay. And they're like, but it's going to be fine. I'm like, you're not hearing me. You're not allowing me to experience my pain. Sometimes you just need to hear the fact and just be like, yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
Which is, as an esthetician, is what I do for people when they come in and they're like, I'm falling apart. And I'm like, yeah. Do you want to talk about it?
That's such a great point too of actually holding space for people. And I want to put an asterisk on that too, is sometimes you should also ask the person if they can hold space for you. Like I was having a conversation with my mom the other day while I was in the midst of a spiral. And then she started talking about it. I was like, hey, I really like, I can't talk about this right now because I'm just like freaking the fuck out. She was like, okay, no problem. And just like moved on. But even, just texting somebody like, hey, do you have like the emotional and mental capacity right now to talk? Like I'm really struggling. Because otherwise people are just like, oh, it's all gonna be fine. It's gonna be great. And I know I default to that too. And this has also been a time from COVID and other things as well of just like not being able to outrun my feelings, which as a highly positive person is so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable.
Right. And these are hard and weighty problems, right? And they're coming from all different directions. They're coming from your family. They're coming from the fact that we're having clashing, of both emotions, and you have family emotions, you have political feelings, you have feelings from strangers on the streets who are just like, wear your mask, don't get so close to me. And we talked about the fact that people aren't getting touched right now, which is then heightening that sense of like drama and fear, right? And we don't have these outlets. People aren't getting to talk to each other because they're not seeing each other. They're isolating. And there's all this violence and tension that is happening. So all of it kind of comes to this point where you have to find your tribe, talk to somebody, and know that for each person, that your part of your job is to sit and just listen and say, I hear you, I understand. Or maybe I don't understand, but I still can hear you. You're valued. I reached out to one of my friends, my friend Emily, because her child passed away. And my business, it's like my baby. I was like, can you hold space for me? And I know it's not like your child is dying, It's so much bigger, your baby dying, but this is how it feels to me. And she was like, I can talk to you, it's fine. And that meant a lot to me. And I felt that she was the only one who could understand. But like, you have to find that person who can listen to you, who can understand what you're going through. Because it's hard right now. And everybody has the thing that they're going through, whether it's you're experiencing like a dismantling of your life, whether you are having trauma because of a relationship that's going on. Like we've been like trapped with our spouse or our friends or our family for a very long time. We have nowhere to go. I've heard a lot of those stories. You might be having, financial problems and hardships. I've heard a lot of those stories. You could be having trouble because you don't know what you're doing with your life right now. There is so many things that are coming up. We're having this massive cleaning of our lives.
Yeah. Well, you get both the literal and the figurative cleaning of your life. But I think too, it's like, I know I've talked about before. I'm like, yeah, my business is doing really, really great. And it's like, yeah, but there's other shit going on. And I think knowing that no matter what front people are putting or sharing on social media or whatever, that we all are struggling in our own ways. And that especially without the distractions, that we're all feeling it so intensely. And so like nobody's okay. Definitely like reach out to your people. And I'm trying to think of where I saw this. I have a really close friend who I knew was having a hard time. She lost her job. She was supposed to be married in May. Like that didn't happen. She's living, in a very small apartment with her partner. And just like, it was like thing after thing after thing after thing. And I kept reaching out and like not hearing back from her. And so my husband and I had this conversation. He's like, well, if it's just one-sided, like why keep trying? And I was just like, but I know that this time is also like so weird. And also like sometimes I think there's a time and place for a one-sided relationship to a point, when she finally got on the phone, there was all of this other stuff going on as well. Her family refusing to see her because of the virus. And that, there was like all this other shit too. And so the avoidance, and I knew too in my heart of hearts, it's like, you're not avoiding me because you hate me. Like, it's not personal. Right. Like, I know there's stuff going on and I want you to know that I'm here whenever you're ready. And I think that holding space for one another is like, just on like a human level, one of the best things that we can do for our people.
Yeah, I agree. And so, I mean, lesson learned from everyone, guys, reaching out to someone, and don't feel, I think a lot of people feel that they can't talk to people, that it's their problems are like minimized. Like, oh, I can't, like, I don't want to bother them. I'm always like, bother somebody.
Yeah.
That person would want to be bothered. If they care about you, they'd want to be bothered.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If it was you, it was reversed. Wouldn't you want to be bothered? Wouldn't you want your friend to reach out to you and tell you that they were troubled? So put yourself in the other position. And if you wanted somebody to call you, then call them.
Yeah.
Right? So it's important. It's very important.
And even just like where possible, like one of the things too with this friend, I was like, hey, I'm going to be in your area. I'm like running another errand. Do you want to meet up and like go on a walk or, socially distance and all of that? And she didn't want to. And she was like, I'm really concerned about the numbers increasing. I'm like, and I respect that, I go to my parents' house. We had breakfast today and did some stuff. And so like, I understand the risk and I measure my risk as, I deem fit is good for me. Right. I think that's important for everybody. And like part of me was kind of hurt by that, but then I was also like, whatever, like everyone's in their own way. So I dropped off like a kombucha and a cute little plant on her doorstep and then got back in my car, texted her when I was already away. Hey, I left something out there for you. So I think there's still ways, again, to hold space, to show up for people, to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Because I also think in this time, for me at least, doing something for somebody else, whether it's picking up the phone when they need to talk, even when I have like 1,000,001 things I need to do, like work wise, but just picking up the phone anyways, or making that, special drop off or like whatever it is, when you give or hold space in some capacity, like that always makes me personally feel better. So that's another way to, I guess, shift the tide is something like what came to me, because it's not that you're like ignoring it or getting rid of it or making it better. It's just like in that moment, it's like this little energy boost,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's something that somebody can hold on to. For that moment, it brings them happiness and joy, right?
Yeah.
Makes them think differently. And, while we're talking about that, one of the things that you can be doing that we have talked about, Alex and I, was that this whole kind of messaging that's coming up for, I think, a lot of people is that you should be finding, one of the things that you should be finding is kind of your happiness. And that's one of the ways, we came, when we were talking about this episode, was finding happiness inside and from yourself is one of, I think, the greatest ways to kind of like combat the spiral, looking for yourself, because right now there's no other noise. And I think that's been the hardest. There's no other noise, right?
Yeah.
You can't be like, I'm going to go camping, I'm going to go buy a bunch of stuff. I'm going to go watch a bunch of Netflix. There's no more Netflix. It's so boring. There's nothing else to watch, right? You have to pay attention to you.
Yeah. And your thoughts.
Right? You're paying attention to you. There's all this cleaning out. So one of the examples I said is like, right now I'm cleaning out my office, right? I'm cleaning out so much stuff in my office. I'm going back into the back of the cabinets where you're like, oh my God, I didn't even know I had that much product back here. And, or like, it's like if you've ever cleaned out your clothes closet and you're like, oh my God, you have to take everything out first. You have to go discover the things that you didn't know were there. You have to go find the stuff that you didn't even want anymore. You have to get you find like, I'm not even kidding, like a spider's nest. Like you find the weirdest crap and you're like, I didn't want that. That's scary. Things that you like, you're like, oh, I didn't know I had this. This is great. I forgot that I had this. This is what you're doing. And you have to kind of do that to your soul, to your life. And that's what we're doing to the world right now.
It's like,
and that's what
Marie Kondo, where you're like, thank you for everything you've done for me, but I'm ready to release you.
Right. Or I don't even know where you came from. I can't remember. I had you, so you must not be important.
Get out of my closet. This is hideous.
Right. So all those things. And that's kind of what's happening. And we'd also talked about the fact that like, people keep saying like, oh, we're getting a clean slate. Well, I don't see it as that. I see it as like we're shining a light on things. So we're shining a light on the good and the bad. So this new normal that like Alex hates was a vomit, right? It's more of like a reinvention. Yeah.
This is as we were writing notes, you're like, no, it's just normal now. I'm like, yeah. Like even, when we were eating today, we're sitting there just like with our masks off and we're done eating. I was just like, this is weird to be outside, but like, that's what it is now, Yeah. And I know too, like for some of you who aren't in like big metropolitan areas, you might have the luxury of being able to like walk outside your house without a mask on. But like I live in a busy neighborhood. Like there's restaurants the minute I step outside, even if I'm just getting something out of my car, only because I know inevitably I'm going to pass somebody. I have a neighbor who's in her 80s, like it's just to be respectful of other people. So even just the simple thing of being mask free is a wonderful thing.
It's totally true. It's totally true. So in that finding the happiness of yourself, what are the things that we're going to do to like try to like look inside to like get less trauma and to find our own happiness?
Yeah.
Right.
One thing we talked about too was about like what type of business, and not even it's a business. I think you got to strip away that because sometimes even that is confusing. And also like what you actually do for business is less important than what brings you joy, which is exactly what we're talking about.
I know we're a business podcast, guys, but like right now we're going to go off the reservation just a little bit because it's also what brings you joy will ultimately lead you to your business.
But I wish I had exactly what she said, but my friend posted on Facebook today and she's a business coach. Are we designing a business that suits our life or a life that suits our business?
Exactly.
She said it way better. But the same idea, like, am I just trying to force myself into this idea of a business that I created? Or is it the other way around that I'm designing my business to fit into my life? And I think that that's the more fulfilling question because you control, you have more control over that.
Do I live to work or do I work to live?
Yeah. But also when you bring or get joy from an internal source rather than an external source, that supply is never, ever, ever ending. Mm-hmm. But if it's something outside of you, you will constantly be chasing this goal, this dream, this whatever. You know, I was a part of a business coaching program where the whole goal was to like get to $1 million. And I adopted this idea that if I wasn't at $1 million, I was a bust. I was a loser. It wasn't good enough. And it was never going to be enough until I got there. And part of kind of like peeling back the layers of, not cleaning the slate, but like just peeling back the layers and figuring out what actually is it that I want? What would a life that is designed how I want look like? And we were talking about this morning. I was like, you know, actually, I don't really want like $1 million business. That sounds like too much work. I don't want to do that. You know, I'd be super happy with 200K. Mind you, this is coming from somebody who is at like $2,000 revenue a month. Okay. So don't think that but you have to, like you said, put that on your vision board. You have to kind of outline it and almost like set your compass to that spot, or you're never going to get there. And you know, if you stumble into something like that's cool, you're lucky, that's great. But I think the more intention we can put into where we want to go, the how you're going to get there will reveal itself in time.
Absolutely. That is exactly right. That is exactly right, Alex.
I'm on the path. My boat's not there yet, but hopefully that star shows me which way to go.
I'll put this back, guys, and re-listen to that whole section because that is right on the money. That is exactly what I lived my life doing, and I created my business with exactly those intentions.
Yeah. And, you know, we were talking too, like, okay, so how do I actually do that? One of the things that I love is to journal.
Get your journal out.
But even, and I think we've talked about this before, of just like writing down, like, who would I need to become to be that person, and like writing that out. And the reason why I like to write it out is because when you go back to it, like I find old journals and I flip them open. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have every single thing on that list that I wanted to happen. And if you don't, it's like you got to name it to claim it, and things do happen by accident. But I think more often than not, it's because you set the intention to make something happen for yourself.
I do believe more than it. I very, very rarely believe that there are accidents. I believe the universe provides, but there are very few accidents. I do believe as well. So for me, most of the things that I have done successfully for my business are absolutely driven goals. Like I put down the goal. So I don't journal. Everybody knows here that I'm not a journaler, but I do write down goals. So like my intention is these things, and I write down the goals, and I have those goals, and I write them down, and I'm like, these are my goals. And I write both a annual goal, probably a quarterly and annual, and a 5-year plan. I'm like, my 5-year plan is this.
And are these things where you're like totally data driven? You're like, well, I know that I have this number and that number, so this is realistic. Or are you just like pie in the sky? I'm going to
pie in the sky. Usually like, and so a lot of times sometimes they will be like, I would like, Alex, did I not tell you that I wanted $500,000, Skinfessional, $500,000?
Wait. Oh yeah. Yeah.
We should want it. I'm like, hey, this goal. Now this is before COVID, so it might be a little harder, but still it's in my mind.
Yeah.
That is energy that I'm constantly putting out. And I literally put out energy towards it. I literally every night I sit down and I'm like, energy out towards that goal. And that's energy I throw out there. I'm like, that energy is going out. That's constantly going out to that goal.
Yeah. See, you kind of journal, you just don't write it down. But that energetic output, I think, is the important part.
So I do. I energetically throw energy out to those things. And so I believe in an energetic force. And put it out there, but that's very witchy because that's what I am. So we put that out there. You know?
Well, no, but even if I'm side note, listen to a podcast called Guru right now about one of the people from the movie The Secret, and like the cult he created, and like people died is like totally screwed up.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. But I 1,000% like. Okay, here's one for you. As far as like you could say it's a coincidence, and that's fine, but I think that things happen intentionally. I wrote down a Post-it note in my planner. I just like writing stuff down. Let me read it to you. It's right here. Maybe it'll happen again. I said, thank you, universe, for the $1,000 that I unexpectedly receive in the next 24 hours. I release the how it happens and have complete faith in the entire process. May this or something better come my way. And so it is. And I'd written that down. I put it in my planner, and then like nothing really happened. I was like, well, that's a bust. And then I stumbled across it again. But I think too, like part of getting really clear about what makes you happy and where you want to go is getting yourself to the place where you can be more receptive to all of these opportunities. So I re-stumbled across that post, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember about this. By the way, in a totally different place now than when I wrote this. You guys listened to the episodes back in December and January. And in 24 hours, I literally kid you not, there was $1,000 in my bank account as a grant from the government that just like bloop, showed up. And I was like, no way. But like it happens. And you can call it a coincidence. You could call it, whatever you want. But I think that if get yourself in an attitude of gratitude, if you will. Like you attract what you put out there. And if you are stewing in the negativity all the time, then like that's what's going to happen. I am not saying don't feel your feelings and have space for that and call your people and allow yourself to feel all the things. I think to be able to have the highs, we also have to have the lows. And part of our capacity to dream big and to love as boldly as we do is that we are also able to feel as much pain as we are, so it's not a weakness if you're like really struggling right now, like everybody is, right. But do the things to set yourself up to be open for what that next best step is. And I'll just add too, the reason why we're saying like every morning I write down 10 dreams that I want to make happen. And some of them are just like, I want to be a kind and patient daughter. Others are, I want to be debt free, which also, guys, let's just say this. So I have, I think, it would be safe to say I have more debt than money I made last year.
Cool. Not for much longer. She's on a path.
No, but I'm telling you this story because like a lot of debt. And I write down every day, I am debt free. I am debt free. I am debt free. And it doesn't happen overnight, but I legitimately am on the path right now to pay off all my debt in 2 years' time, which I'm just like, what? Holy guacamole. That wouldn't have happened if I just continued to stew in how broke I was and ran around and did things feeling bad for myself, which usually is shopping. Like, how does that work out? I just want kombucha. But like write down the things. What is it? I also write down, just name it and claim it, that I'm a New York Times bestseller. I have no idea what this book will be about or if I even want to write a book, but I think I do because I think that could be how I get to meet Oprah. So like that's on my list every day. But just, writing things down, like who do I need to become to be the best version of myself? Because at the end of the day, you are not your business. So even if your business is a steaming dumpster fire right now, even if your business keeps getting shut down beyond any control of your own, like you are still here and you will still be here. So what are you going to do?
You're going to work on finding out what you want and who you want to be. Mm-hmm. That's what you're going to be doing. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-mm. So I think it's important to, when we talk about feeling your feelings, I always tell people, feel your feelings, allow yourself, because you have to let them out. They're like volcanoes, right? You have to let them erupt and get out there, right? Mm-hmm. Don't keep them in and be evil. Let them out. But I'm also like, you don't wallow in them for forever and eternity, because that doesn't help. It's not progress. But getting them out is important. But then, you need to make a plan of action. You got to do something, right? So finding your path to happiness. Mm-hmm. Figure out what makes you happy and then do that. And it can take a little bit of time.
My God, it takes so much time. Can we just talk? Patience is not one of my virtues, but if there's anything we all need right now, it's a little bit more patience.
Figure out what that is. And we've talked about this a few times. You might realize what makes you happy seems absolutely ridiculous. That's okay. It's what makes you happy. Mm-hmm. It's okay.
Yeah. if there's also things where you're like, well, like going to the beach is my happy place and I can't do that right now, maybe there's elements of that will bring you joy and happiness. So maybe, you can't go to the beach, but part of what you like at the beach is just sitting outside and doing nothing. So maybe you can take a lawn chair and read a book in your backyard. It's not the same thing, but there's elements of it that may be that place of happiness for you.
Right.
So you might have to break it down and kind of reconfigure it. But do not be the person who's just like, well, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Because of course you can't do it if you are just digging your heels in.
Right. Because we talked about like one of the things that makes me really happy is my ability to travel. Well, I can't travel all the places I want to travel right now. But in fact, traveling really is really hard period right now. But that doesn't stop me from looking at places I'd like to travel, looking at like the places that I have traveled and enjoying the fact that I've traveled in the past.
You guys could take the trailer out and travel all over.
At some point, we absolutely can. Right now, it's a little dicey still, but, people are out there doing it.
Yeah.
We're watching them on videos. YouTube is an amazing place.
It is. I would say camping grounds on weekdays are far less populated.
It's true. It's true. So, hey, that's what we're doing. That's what we've got happening.
Yeah, but you make your bucket list of that, or maybe if it's food, you could be recreating things at home that you really want to make and whatever it is. So there's ways to break it down and make it happen. It's going to require creativity. It's going to require persistence. It's going to require thinking out of the box. But hey, you guys, that's why we are entrepreneurs.
That's why we're entrepreneurs. And that's how it's going to be. But I think at the end of the day, dealing with the fact that you have this ability to spiral out, but then pull yourself up, or find a friend to help pull yourself up, is also what makes us entrepreneurs, because we don't fall down and not get back up again.
Nope.
Yeah, because otherwise you wouldn't own a business. You wouldn't be listening right now.
Like that.
You'd be like, I work a boring job somewhere.
I work in an office.
Exactly. You wouldn't be an entrepreneur.
One thing too I like to do is like put on music. I'm a very auditory person. So on one day I was feeling like really, really sad. So I just listened to Casey Musgraves all day, and it allowed me to like feel my feelings. And I was like, that's okay. That's cool. Like everything doesn't have to be fixed right away. But that also doesn't mean I'm going to put my dreaming and scheming and creating on hold.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So guys, I hope this all helped and brought it all together for you. And you understand that you can feel your feelings and know that you can journal or not, but you're going to feel into the universe and make plans.
Yes.
Because we do know that if we're spiraling, you're all spiraling.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, if I'm feeling sad, I know you're feeling sad.
Yeah, because Alex is the person I usually go to, and I'm like, so Alex, your job is to keep everybody bright and happy right now.
Yeah, I'm really good at that. But no, I just had to straight up tell my husband, I'm like, so I'm not really feeling happy right now, and I just need you to just like allow that to be. And he's just like, okay.
Like, oh God, this is terrible. Yeah, I know. And I had a whole breakdown on my boyfriend, and he's not used to me having like breakdowns. I'm usually the person like, I got this shit. Don't worry about it. It's cool. I'm gonna have a breakdown in my car alone quietly. And now I'm just like, I'm having breakdowns. I'm having full breakdowns. So yeah, you're not alone. We're together.
No.
So let's have a conversation about how, if you want to have a conversation with us, there are places to do that.
So you can hit us up on the socials. Let us know how you're doing. Even if it's just like right now, you could let us know maybe what things you are doing to find your happy and continue to set goals and dreams in the dumpster fire. That is our current reality. So hit us up on Instagram. We are at Skinfessional, or you can find Sybil at Your Skin Fitness Expert, or me, I'm at Hala for Mala.
Right. We also have a Skinfessional box. The phone number is 818-473-5277.
Every time on the boxes.
I know. And we'll see you next week.
Keep your secrets to yourself.
Unless you're telling us.
Okay, bye.
Bye.